This is the KoperCrabb Podcast.
I'm Cheney Crab.
I am Naveen Copperwise.
If you would like to buy Entheos merch, that's our band. I do vocals in it. Naveen writes all of the instrumentals and he plays drums. Pick up some merch. We just put out this, we have a new merch drop up and we're each wearing one of the shirts at entheosstore.com. One is a Halloween shirt if you can't see it. One is for our new EP, An End to Everything, which comes out on October 25th. So, speaking of our new EP, the person who engineered, produced the entire thing is here with us today, Mark Lewis.
What's up?
Yo.
What's
How
up,
y'all
dude?
doing?
Also our neighbor.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course.
I mean, maybe I kind of forced myself on here almost. I said, hey,
That's
I'm
fine.
coming on the podcast.
I love
We
it.
have things to talk about.
We do have
We do.
things to talk
We do.
about.
We called an emergency podcast because of all the drama going on in drummer world. Mm-hmm. We wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well,
Cheers.
Cheers, dude.
Yeah.
Cheers to all of you out there. I think that you guys are two of the most perfect people to talk about it because, Mark, you engineer a ton of records. You work with drummers all the time. Naveen, you are a drummer and an engineer.
And I make a lot of fake videos too. So
A lot of fake videos going on.
A lot of fake things happening, dude.
yeah. I think it's kind of funny because it's kind of like 2004 all over again. Because the first wave of this, and from my perspective, was when people found out that you could edit and sound replace drums on albums, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And everyone was like kind of divided about it.
Yeah. Well, so before I go any further, I have to say this is not me. Everything I'm saying, I will give opinions about, but this is not me coming on here telling people how to record.
Yeah.
At all. This is not the way I do it is better. Nothing about that whatsoever. It's more about me seeing an entire group of people lose their shit over a drummer apparently editing something, who knows to what extent.
Yeah.
But the guy can play drums.
Yeah.
The guy can play drums.
Yeah, 100%.
And I didn't even watch Mike's video because I don't have 20 minutes to watch him explain why whatever happened is wrong.
I didn't watch all of it
watched
either.
it.
I watched like the first 2 minutes.
So give me the rundown then. But
So basically what happened was Mike Caputo made a video about how Lord Marco Petrozello kind of faked a video. And he has evidence that he did it.
and this was an Arcspire audition.
No, it was like an older video. I don't even know how old the video was that he found. I believe
I
it was
thought this all had to do with Arcspire.
Yeah, I know. That's what's funny about it is it's like it has nothing to do with Archspire. Like that one in particular. But there's
Arcspire's over there like, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Fucking shirts are going to be great this month. Thank you.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I think it's because they both were trying out for Archspire maybe, or just their names came up. So it's kind of just in it. And then there's another one where a guy, Craig Reynolds, who has a podcast and he's a drummer, made a video about another guy.
Does his podcast have more listeners than this one?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
fuck
Craig's
that guy
killing
then.
it. No, Craig's
Yeah.
he's killing it.
So I guess that's what's going on there. But really, like, the reason why the whole thing is so dumb to me is because it's like years ago when I first started making videos,
Yeah.
it's like, oh wow, everyone's videos are fake.
Yeah.
Like here's how I tell if a video is fake. I watch it and I'm like, that video is fake.
Yeah.
It's just clear as day.
It's
like
extremely
it's
clear.
so obvious.
Yeah.
How could you not tell?
Well, I remember it got really out of hand with the guitar players.
Yeah.
And that was silly, but I don't even, it's hard for me because that music does nothing for me. And that's the whole, that's where I'll end up way down the old man yells at cloud rabbit hole. Because I mean, I am a generation or two past a lot of these guys. Anyway, I've been editing drums longer than a lot of Arcspire fans have been alive.
Yeah.
And that's just life, I guess. But you're right. It's so obvious. But the thing is, I started to realize that when I looked at these comments, that people have no idea
Yeah, I know. And
what goes into making records.
Totally. Yeah. I don't know if I think there's two different things happening right now. Mm-hmm. So I think there's one thing happening where people are just finding out about basic metal production, mm-hmm. and they're bummed about it.
Yeah.
Right. They're seeing how the sausage is made. Mm-hmm. They're realizing that animals have to be killed.
Yeah.
They don't like that.
Yeah.
And then there's another school of people who are like, okay, we already know all this stuff's going on album, but don't say that your videos are unedited when they're edited.
Right.
Because I think that was like the whole problem with Marco's video was in the comments. He was saying it's an unedited, like, raw video.
And you watched it and it was obvious that it was edited?
I mean, to me, it seems sus.
Okay.
For sure.
Right. Well, I mean,
because I just know how I make a lot of drum videos. Uh-huh. And I'm like I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty good drummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I know how it sounds when there's like a drum bit. Like if you listen to my drum tracks or like just solo the kicks in a drum video, they're not like, it's like there's some staggering in there.
Yeah. Oh.
Even on the ones that you think sound really clean.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes I'll be like, damn, that's super clean when I'm editing my drum videos. And I solo the kick, and it's like, when you hear it by itself, you're like, that actually sucks.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, I know what to listen
sucks compared to your ear that's used to hearing shit perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know what to listen for. Like, if the snare and the kick are, like, not flamming, and it's like, okay, that's not real. Like, that's just, it's not a bad thing. It's just, that's not how it sounds when people do blast beats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing about tech, quote unquote tech, that has totally lost me. And look, I'll make records with those guys all day long. Yeah. You know, some of them are writing great riffs, shit like that. But when I hear the music, it does absolutely nothing for me. And it's because I know that nobody was thinking about the take. You know, it's, tonally, I guess that you're responsible for something as a guitar player, but at half speed, it's such a different thing, you know, and the drumming, you know, I guess we have to break it down for people that don't understand recording, because I don't want this to go over people's heads. But, you know, any DAW, you have the ability to chop every single hit of any instrument and line it up to a grid that is based on simple math that divides the beat into 16ths, triplets, eighth notes, you know, 16th note triplets, 32nd notes, whatever, and you can make it perfect. And there is no question that it's perfect, because you don't have to think about it. The computer tells you that it's perfect. And that is, in my opinion, if for lack of a better word, the epidemic of tech is people, you know, like I told you guys the other day, I listened to an Arcspire song for the first time all the way through last week, and I fucking laughed. I mean, I'm not like, clearly they can fucking play.
Yeah.
But dude, there's people that is EDM with growling over it. This is not a band representing themselves as humans, and that, if that's okay. I mean, with the song was called Drone Corpse
Aviator.
I was going to say Activator or whatever. Yeah. Clearly, I think their aesthetic is not to sound human. Yeah. But, you know, when you start splitting hairs about a guy like Marco editing his video, and then you have a bunch of guys who are Arcspire fans and Rings of Saturn fans and what's some other bands like that, there's got to be tons of them.
Yeah, I mean, there are. Like, all of them that make it just ridiculously clean. Yeah. I mean, any of those tech bands.
Yeah, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody like Mike tearing down somebody like Marco, who, from what I can tell, both guys are fantastic drummers. And then you have a bunch of fans going, "Oh, fuck Marco, Team Mike," and you know, it's like, dude, every single record in your collection is completely edited to the point where there's absolutely zero human performance left. Yeah. And maybe it might not even be what was played whatsoever. Yeah. You know, and people don't understand that, because especially in metal, when you anytime you get above 230 BPM, there's no drummer on the planet that plays a 230 BPM kick drum loud enough for it to fucking matter.
Yeah.
You have to have a trigger to make it work. End of story.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear somebody that can play that fast without triggers, listen to Virgil Donati. And when he does that shit, it's whisper quiet, you know?
Yeah.
And
100%.
it's
like,
you know, yeah. He was the first guy that was like really making double strokes famous, but it's a totally different sound.
Yeah.
And, but I don't even know if it's ever 230 actually. But anyway, the point is the kick drums don't matter at all. And I know for a fact, 99% of what you're hearing on these albums, if not 100% of what you're hearing on these albums, was probably played on a kick pad, or it was played double strokes on a kick drum with a trigger on it. And it's so inconsequential, the performance, because it's the engineer or the drummer is taking it and completely gritting it to the point where there is no human performance left. There's no sway in the beat. I wish we had some way to show these, people that might not understand, but it's so inconsequential. And it was just so ironic to me that I am seeing hundreds of kids and maybe thousands at this point. If you go on the YouTube comments, I'm sure there's tons.
Yeah.
Fuck Marco, and this is ridiculous, and blah, blah, blah. Dude, every single thing in your catalog is completely quantized to the point where you're not even hearing a drummer. Mm-hmm. You're hearing an engineer replace drums with either samples they chose or the band wanted, and there's nothing about it that's a human performance.
Yeah.
And people don't, I guess they're not understanding that. They think that, what they're hearing on record, a lot of guys think that everybody played at the same time or whatever. And it's
I don't know what they think. I don't know what they're thinking.
Either.
I don't either, but it's piece by piece. Everything is chopped up and edited, and it's not remotely a real thing. And, to kind of, I guess, tell people, I saw the other day, this is why I thought it was Arcspire, because I saw people arguing about the Mike and Marco thing again, and somebody posted a link to that guy, Kevin Paradis playing Arcspire.
He's insane.
Yeah, Kevin is amazing.
And Kevin played for Nebula Viscaris, supporting the record that I did with them last year. And I never heard the guy play. I clicked on the video. Dude, motherfucker.
He's sick, right? Yeah.
We did a tour with him. He's fucking insane.
Yeah,
he's insane.
And it's not, I'm not here to give Kevin props. Clearly he deserves it. But to me, that was the best version of that Arcspire song to me. Like, it fucking annihilated the album.
Yeah,
it was
because
like,
it had a feel. Yeah.
Dude, this ruled, and the drums sounded so much heavier and more brutal, and I felt like I was getting beat down by the snare instead of just completely dominated by rim shots on a fucking blast beat that's not even possible.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like people, I wish, I will call out the tech bands, like, you guys.
Well, can I say though, I don't think that it's just tech bands. Like there are bands and like in all genres. Even I'll listen to some, stuff that's like deathcore, metalcore, whatever, and it's all there's a lot of it that's like reminds me of dubstep. When dubstep came out, because it's focused on being like the craziest, like holy, like you see it live. So I don't want to only go in on like tech, because I think it just is, it's a lot of music in general. It's a lot of metal in general.
Deathcore in particular.
Yeah, and deathcore. And I don't even think it's necessarily like, I'm personally not like, oh, you guys are cheating, you suck for that or whatever.
It's nothing about
it's
that.
Like, it's not about that whatsoever. It's just that I think this is the point that you and I were trying to make.
Yeah.
It's just like our taste, my ear, I don't have a taste for that anymore.
Yeah.
Like I think for me, my own personal taste was like, first off, when I was in Animosity, right? That was like when I was straight up a purist, right? I thought playing to a click track was stupid.
Yeah, sure.
Like I was like, fuck that. I'm not playing to a click track. I did use triggers, but I was like, when we went to record, I'm like, you have to record the actual like DM4 sound. That's what I wanted on the album, So I was like, I wouldn't punch in. Like the first 3 Animosity records, there's like 2 punch-ins per album. And I'm not even exaggerating. Yeah. It was like, because I was so against it.
Yeah.
And not playing to a click track. right? And I'm not saying this is cool because I don't think that sounds the best.
Yeah.
I think it does sound better when you have a blend between that mindset and maybe like that's on one end of the spectrum.
Right.
And then on the other end of the spectrum is like, all right, we're going to chop everything up. We're going to make it totally. So then I met Michael Keane.
Yeah.
And of the Faceless. And he was like the first guy that I met who like told me about, well, let me back it up. So when I was in Animosity, anytime other bands would do samples and stuff, I would be like, this is stupid. Or, this is whack. I don't like it. I didn't listen to music that sounded like that. You know, it turned me off. And then maybe 2007, you know, it just started to become so prevalent that it's like, you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like every metal album had samples and Drumagog. You remember that?
Oh, God. Fuck yeah, I remember it,
school.
dude. I mean, Sukoff and I were probably like the first two guys to buy it.
Yeah. So that was like the old way of doing the sound replacement. And then, you know, and I kind of just started to be a little bit more like, okay, yeah, whatever. If it sounds good, it sounds good.
Yeah.
And then I met Keane, and he was the first one who was like, yeah, I go through and I just fucking chop up every hit and put it on the grid. You know, and I was like, whoa, that's insane. You're like hearing the first Veil of Maya and Born of Osiris.
Yeah, it's shocking when you realize you can do it.
And when you first hear it, you're like, dude, this fucking sounds insane.
Yeah, it's
like
amazing.
it sounds so crazy because I think the craziest recording I had heard up until that point was Dimmu Borgir Puritanical.
Yeah.
But when I go back and listen to that, I'm like, wow, this is like pretty raw.
Yeah.
Like because the drums aren't quantized and it's like, I mean, they are fake sounding, but it's like, it's just a lot more, the performance is not like.
There's a lot of sway
gritty.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, I look at triggers like a guitar amp. It's a necessity to exist. Like if you guys, you know, or if we made a record with just the guitar DI and it was like blink, 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 you know, like it just wouldn't be fucking heavy, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, you need that amplification and that sort of, that aesthetic to execute.
Yeah, to make it heavy.
Yes.
And
to execute the performance. The grid is not needed. It's something, and that's why it drives me crazy, and that's why it really drove me crazy to see all these people just picking on Marco or whoever the fuck. It's like, guys, everything you're listening to is fake, and there's no reason for it to be that way.
Right.
Yeah, you want it, okay, but you know, maybe find a way to just like fix the parts that need to be fixed because maybe it's an incredible performance and you fucked up the feed a little bit in one section.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, that's what I do.
Yeah,
up. If
exactly.
I make a full video and like one spot has like a weird kick drum part, I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah.
But like, and that's fine. And I'm not even mad at anybody for making fake videos.
Yeah.
I would be personally mad because I'm like, how can you not tell this is fake? Like, it's the same with vocalists or guitarists. You watch them and you're like, dude, they're not doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine, but why are we calling this a playthrough?
Yeah.
This is a music video.
Exactly. Yeah. And it becomes so obvious with drums because, you know, like you said, there's no flaming between the kick and the snare. But the guitar is like such an offense because you can hear it so clearly, you know, where the pick attack goes away.
Yeah.
Guys it's like either they're not listening or they want to sound like a Nintendo game. And I think a lot of it's not listening. Like, I just can't imagine, you know, a world where you dedicate your life to an instrument to then have a computer tell you what's good and what's not. That's what drives me insane.
Yeah, because I think you say this all the time. You're like, these guys are super sick.
Yeah.
Like, they could just bust it out
Yeah.
and make it sound real and tight and super sick. But, okay, so let me finish what I was saying. So I'm like, I meet Keane, and I'm like, that's fucking insane. You know, like, chop it up, fucking MIDI the drums. And then, so I learned how to do that.
Right.
And I made an album like called Flesh Rot, and it's all like, you know, everything is completely grid and everything's all sample replaced, and it's you know, it's that like mechanical kind of sound, and it's cool for what it is. You know, I'm not like,
people love that album. I guess I should listen to it.
It fits the sound. It
fits the sound. It's cool.
It's part of what Flesh Rot is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, but I mean, the thing that really annoys me the most is when people don't get the dynamics right. If you're gonna sound replace everything, go through and do the dynamics. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I mean, you
like,
know,
you
I'm
can't
crazy
hit the snare
about
that hard on a blast beat. So even the Flesh Rot album, it's like the dynamics are correct. Like, you might not know it, you would, but listening to it, you might just be like, oh, it just sounds clean or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the drum's not flamming. It's like that. It's really clean. I quantized everything. I just learned how to record. I was just learning. You know? And so I feel like it's harder to get to the next phase. Yeah. Which is, I remember when I started listening to albums that you and Jason made, like particularly Job for a Cowboy, because they recorded that at the same time that I did Flesh Rot. Okay. With Jason.
You're talking about Ruination?
Yeah,
Ruination. Was that the first one we did?
I don't think so.
No?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
So did you work on that one?
I worked on all of them. I worked more so on the first one, I think. I did. God. I remember tuning the drums on that album and miking everything up, getting the drum sounds with Charn, and then I left to go do Ritual. Is this like 2012?
It was before that. It was like 2008, 2009.
That was the second one.
08, 09.
Okay. Yes, we did those drums at a studio called Big Shot, I believe, in Orlando, and then the rest of it at Audio Hammer. Okay. It all runs together now, dude. But yes, go ahead. Go on.
So anyway, I remember hearing it and being like, okay, this sounds really sick, but you can tell they didn't clean everything up. Yeah. Like perfectly, you know? And I remember thinking that was really cool. But I think that's kind of like the next step for some people. Maybe not for all of them, but like for me personally, I'm like, that's pretty cool, you know, having it like that. But the thing is, that's way harder to execute. That's
exactly right. And the thing is kids, it's the other epidemic too, is kids are so convinced, there's no money in recording and this and that, and we don't have the money to make a record. It's like, dude, like spend the money and do it. Like Meshuggah didn't have money to make Contradictions Collapse, and they didn't have money to make those. They didn't have a ton of money, and they still made these crazy sounding good records because they put the money into their craft, you know, or Metallica. And it comes down to bands, you know, part of it's the homogenization of everybody having the same plugins and the same sounds, and bands not thinking they don't have to worry about stuff. Yeah. But the drummer, you know, used to be every bit as identifiable as the vocalist on all these records. You'd hear the snare and go, I know that that's Thomas, or I know that that's Lars, or I know that that's Dave Lombardo. You knew by the way their snare drum sounded always.
Yeah. Well, it is still like that. It is. Just not for certain bands.
It's not prevalent, because people think that they don't have the money to do it. And it's like, dude, just spend the money or let your drums sound like shit, dude.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like seriously.
Yeah, I know.
And people are going to be like, oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. Yeah. No, dude, it's not. Like it is part of being a band and being who you are, you know, like At the Gates making Slaughter of the Soul with a fucking home built 412 that had shitty speakers in it, you know?
That's iconic sound.
Iconic sounding shit. And people are that's the problem is, you know, I wanted to pull my hair out when some of these kids are like, fuck Marco and this and that. And it's like, guys, everything you're doing, the producer and the band is letting the computer make the decisions. Yeah. And it's fucking insane. You shouldn't even be allowed to be called a producer in metal if you're going to be letting the computer make the decisions. Yeah. You know, I mean, but hey, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to give a bunch of opinions about what should and shouldn't happen. But it's so insane to me that people just don't understand that. And I can even, to get into history with you, I can look at a point in my career when Jason and I went from, you know, we both started on mixing consoles, on ADAT machines or desktop recorders, to, you know, Sukov had Pro Tools long before me. And we started making records together after he really had some success. We go from like Beauty and the Breakdown, you know, where there's no snare sample at all. The only reason there was a kick sample is because the band wanted it. This is a Bury Your Dead record. And, you know, Trivium, you know, Autumn Offering, shit like that, to sometime around 2008, 2009, like I made a Deicide record, and it's like fucking perfect and everything's sampled and this and that. And I listen back to it now and it's like, I think I got a great performance out of Glenn's vocals and everybody played great, but I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have made Deicide perfect because they're not perfect, and that's what makes them brilliant.
Exactly.
And I mean, dude, I know that like Glenn listens back to that record and fucking isn't happy with it, even though at the time he was like, "Oh, this is crazy sound."
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time, you know, you go back and you listen, and it's like it's a mistake to me to have done that. But there's a lot of things like that. Like it was a very little amount of time. I remember we did Beneath the Massacre around that time too. And that was
which record was that?
It's like a really colorful cover. It's
white, it's the one. It's the one after Mechanics of Dysfunction.
Yeah, I know the one. I can't remember the name of it.
We did that, and I remember getting the files from Yannick Saint Amand that produced it, and we were just like, dude, this is a computer.
Yeah.
But you know, the Canadians really did forge that.
They did. They did. I remember they were one of the original ones where it was like snare velocity on 127, like
yeah.
And it's like at first when you hear it, you're just like, "Fuck, this is insane."
Dude, it blows your mind. It blows your mind.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like, I don't know what it is, but after a while,
it doesn't stick with you.
It like dissipates, and you're just like, I just want to hear something that sounds like a person.
Yeah.
You know? Like I check out a lot of metal. You know this.
Yeah.
I search through a lot of bands.
Yeah.
And like, right when it comes on, if it's like super sampled sounding and perfect, I just skip immediately.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not. I'm not hating. It's just like that's just not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
I want to hear something that just sounds like a person playing the drums.
Yeah, dude.
With a tight snare drum, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, dude, yes.
If the snare's not tight, I skip it. Just saying.
So many times it takes away the character of a band. Bands like start sounding a lot alike because all the drums sound, and drums are for me one of the first things I hear.
Yeah.
So it's like if the drums sound super quantized, if I can't tell that there's a personality in the player, then I'm turned off by it.
Yeah.
Now.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I remember when Jason and I really, you know, got insanely proficient at editing. I mean, he really showed me the ropes on how to edit, and then I became the guy that did all the editing and was doing the tracking and doing all the Ginsu shit and chopping everything up. And like I said, there's that couple of years where we got really perfect on stuff. And then we were kind of like, whoa. Like we gotta kind of like ease up here because we were getting pushback from bands at that point. Now a lot of bands are like, no, we want it perfect.
Yeah.
But
now it's the opposite.
Yeah, like
I created a monster.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we were part of that. But like when we were making Nocturnal.
Yeah. So to me, Nocturnal sounds pretty much like gridded.
It's actually not.
Okay.
It's not gridded. It's
I haven't listened to it in a while, but I feel like it's.
So I remember Eric Rachel that produced it. For some reason, he never used the Pro Tools click. He would print a click from some other metronome he had that he always used. And he would slide stuff by hand. Because I could show you like I remember when we were mixing Death Mask Divine, I said, there's no fucking way he's playing this. And I soloed we were still mixing on an SSL then. So I literally on the console like bloop, and I soloed the overheads. And I'm like, motherfucker, I can hear his kicks in the overheads doing the sextuplets, and that breakdown on Death Mask. And I'm like, God damn, like Shannon was insane.
Yeah.
But the reason I brought this record up was we put different tom samples on his toms because we were just like, oh, we got these samples, we got this, let's put it on here. And Shannon's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not my drum. Like, get that off of there, you know? And those drums are heavily sampled, but they're the samples of his drums. Mm-hmm. And that was the last time Shannon had that. Like when we made Deflorate and then Ritual, it was like a conscious effort not to make the blast beats so rim shotty sounding because we felt we overdid it. And, you know, like it's just, like I said, it's so crazy. And to me, it sounds so much heavier when it's not like that. Yeah. It's shocking when you first hear it, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and people are going to tell me that I'm out of touch, but like, those records don't last, man. The ones that are overdone, like come and go.
It's 100% true, man.
They come and go, and
because then there's just a new, like, crazier, modern technique recording to do.
Yeah,
right.
And then it's like having like this doesn't really apply to like technical music, but like in metalcore and shit like that, it's like it's this snare that's just like it sounds like dubstep.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's not how a snare sounds.
No,
like,
it's
that's
not.
just, there's no scenario where a snare sounds like that. It doesn't sound like that out of a PA. It doesn't sound like that when you're playing it in a room.
Yep.
It's just, that's not what a snare sounds like.
Exactly.
And it's like, I guess it's cool. You know, it's got like a lot of impact, but I don't know. To me, I just don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
That's just me.
No, I totally agree.
I think it's more serving of a time than it is like a band.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it's caught up in what's going on right now rather than capturing a band for what they are and what makes them special.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see where the tech scene goes because there's nowhere else for it to go except backwards.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like they can, like they need the songs and the same thing with deathcore. You know, like, man, like those guys need that human element to go beyond just getting a bunch of kids to lose their mind on YouTube comments and then forget about the album.
Well, something that you told me that I actually think about a lot is that you're like, bands that are like really big don't sound fake.
No.
You know, and like I've yet to find an example to prove otherwise.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it though, like System of a Down or like Korn or like all these
Gojira.
Look at these
Slipknot, Gojira.
Slipknot.
Like they don't sound fit. They're even more raw than a lot of metal bands.
Yeah.
Like they don't even play to clicks live.
Well, dude, I mean, there's something about it, dude. Like, look at the guys, like, look at Heafy getting on Twitch and singing a fucking Britney Spears song with an acoustic guitar and, like, just, like, letting it all hang out. Like, kids are like, this is great, even though, like, Matt's like, oh, I was so flat on this or whatever. Like, he doesn't fucking care. He doesn't care. He's just about being an entertainer. And people, that's so endearing to people. Look at fucking Jimmy Page in the 60s, like late 60s. My God, what a disaster that guy was on the guitar. Like live, you're like, Jesus Christ, like playing with a violin bow and he's like all fucked up. And like, then he like tries to just like play the guitar as fast as he can with no rhyme or reason at all. And it just sounds like horse shit.
Yeah.
You know, but people, it's so endearing. And these people are legends for letting it all hang out like that. And, you know, like, it makes the biggest bands, man. It really does. I mean, the fakest of the big bands you could say would maybe be Five Finger.
Yeah.
Or then you could say maybe Nickelback, but motherfucker, like Nickelback's like the Star Wars of production. Like they take the real life and the grid and they make it this like insane sounding $1 million thing.
I would argue that Five Finger Death Punch is the same way, and what they do on album is sort of replicated live because they're playing in fucking stadiums.
Yeah, it is.
And the drums are like,
it is.
You know, like it's so simple.
It is.
That they can almost recreate it live. You know.
Yeah, you can speculate with bro science about this shit all day, but I mean, it's it's the truth. I feel like the people that fuck up are more endearing.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I agree.
I want to see it.
Yeah.
You know,
I do too.
And I've always been like that, even with people's performances on album. Like I don't really want to hear them play. I remember when I was a kid, like going to see Slipknot.
Yeah.
And I was a drummer, and I remember like Joey Jordison would like play the wrong fill, or he would play like the fill from like the second verse in the first verse.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, damn, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to hear him do like the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And like I know when I see drummers now, not all of them, but some of them, they're playing like the exact same thing. Like, okay, it's that crash here, and it's that splash at this point, and I'm just like, dude, just go crazy.
Yeah, just go crazy.
Yeah.
Just fucking do it.
do
just
something
like,
different.
Give me the danger.
Yeah.
I want the danger. I want to be like, oh shit, this guy's he might fuck up.
Totally.
You know, it's like it reminds me of like skateboarding.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're doing like these crazy tricks, and you're like, oh shit, is he gonna land it or not? And you don't know. He might land it, he might not. And either way, it's cool.
Dude,
either way,
if
you're
he
like, oh,
doesn't,
that was sick.
Think of that story. If the person doesn't land it for years, you're like, I was there.
Yeah.
I was there to see this person fuck up that part.
Yeah.
That's so much cooler than being like, yeah, they sounded exactly like album. I
Yeah.
mean, it was.
I remember another example is John Longstreth. I remember I saw him play one time, and he train wrecked.
Yeah.
Like he was just going insane and just like
About
fucking.
to say this about Metallica,
Yeah,
though,
he
instead
train
of
wrecked.
Origin. But
And I was like, dude, my favorite drummer just train wrecked. That is fucking sick.
Which-
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
It just made me like him way
Which
more.
with John, we're talking about, to me, a tech drummer. He's like a technical death metal drummer who
Yep.
came up before everything got so perfect.
yeah.
So I feel like John was kind of the last era of people where it was okay to play like that.
Yeah. Like, yes, like it's my job to make people sound larger than life. And I tell bands all the time, I don't give a fuck about your live show.
Yeah.
But I do want you to sound like yourselves.
Yeah. I think that's worth pointing out. Like I'm not sitting here saying like, oh yeah, we're just these Puritan type people. Like, dude, we made like the EP.
Yeah.
Like, so that's something that we want to talk about is like, we made our latest EP with you and we did it from the ground up. And it's like, we're never going to sound that good live. You know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of crazy shit going on.
Yeah.
But it's like, it has character.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to get at. We don't want you to wipe out the character. It's like enhance the character.
Yeah. And there's things that we fixed. You know?
Course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Like, and that's why, people got to understand that like with your voice, Cheney, people, when you're singing soft, it's very easy to tune you. But if I'm looking for you to hit a pitch when you're screaming, and you gave me something that's unbelievably like heartfelt, like I know I did this with one or two of your screams on the EP, where you fucking nailed it, and I'm like, it was just a little flat, and I will take a pitch shifter and have to tune it by ear. There's no auto tune that can fix that.
Yeah.
And people got to understand that we do that. And back in the day, they would use an Eventide on tape and like, sit there and like with a knob and be like, like trying to get the shit to tune, and, or like when he did the Crusade by Trivium, like, and Matt's doing a pitched scream the whole album. Like I remember Jason using the Waves graphic pitch shifter to tune his vocals.
Yeah.
And dude, it's like, it has nothing to do with somebody not being able to sing. It's just like, man, that was the take, and maybe you were just a hair flat, or maybe your hair sharp, or whatever. And that's a lot of what goes on that people don't realize, that like, you have to do, push these things just over the top, because if I have you do that take again, it's not the one.
Yeah. Right. It could be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
By all means, but it wasn't the correct delivery.
Yeah.
And I will say also, just you as an engineer with vocals, period, there are parts that I, as someone who is very like, I am technique driven in my vocals, my screaming, I like them to be like, this is that perfect scream. But there are screams that I allowed on the EP because of you that were not like a perfectly techniqued scream. They just were the scream that should be there. It wasn't.
Yeah, I got a chill or whatever. I'm like, dude, that was it.
Yeah,
that was the one.
But they have more emotion behind them. And now when I listen to them, like in Return to Me, there are screams that are like evoking emotions in me. They almost make me cry.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking raw, and I can feel like a sense of anger, a sense of just like. There's an emotional value to those that wouldn't be in screams that I just flattened out and made them like the perfectly techniqued scream.
Yeah. No, that's 100% true, and that's why I just got so I just like threw my hands up in the air about this whole video thing. I'm like, guys, like your entire genre is faked, and it's not like you bought the record and it said there's no editing on this Arcspire record or whatever. I'm not saying that they're fooling you, but it's like at what point and why does it matter? You know what I mean? Like it's obvious that Marco can play, and
that he can play really fucking fast.
Yeah. And I'll tell a story. I did the Rings of Saturn record. I don't know if he had played on other records or not, but I don't even remember the name of the record that I mixed by them. But
that's crazy that you did that, by the way. It's a very odd pairing.
Yeah, hey, they wanted to do it.
Cool.
They hit me up, and I said, okay, cool. And they said Marco's gonna do the drums. Can you maybe give him a hand? So Marco and I spoke a couple times.
Okay.
And by give him a hand, I literally just gave him some guidance on how to record his drums in his. I think he has a garage or a basement.
Yeah.
And from what I remember, the kick drums were pads, and then he had just enough channels. I had to have him buy another Roland interface because he had a Roland interface he wanted to use. I had taught him how to daisy chain them together, and he had enough fucking channels to record the drum shells and I think 2 overheads or 4 overheads or something. I remember I'm like, you got to mic the splash, you got to mic the hat and the ride for me, otherwise it's fucked.
Yeah.
And nice guy, like very easy to communicate with. He sent me the drums. I guess there was some sort of miscommunication. I thought they sounded great. I'm like, fuck, this is ripping, whatever.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you whether he really played the kicks or not because it came in on a pad, but it sounded like they were pretty real for the most part. There's parts that seemed quantized.
Well, another thing that we should mention is playing the kicks on a pad is a huge advantage.
Majorly huge.
Yeah, from an editing engineering standpoint.
Yes.
Because if the kick is off and you're trying to fix it up, it's extremely hard to get it out of all the other mics.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. At these speeds, the kick is almost inconsequential.
Yeah, just play it on a pad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's you could almost say it's cheating, but it's not because it really that's a technique that I use to get the hands to sound more real. Exactly. You know, because I can let the drummer slam the fuck out of the hands, and we know that the kicks are going to be inconsequential because you can't play them hard enough for it to matter anyway. Yeah. So what I was saying about the Rings of Saturn is he sent me the drums, and I had the mix going, and I had it good and blah blah. And I remember talking to Lucas, who's quite a character, but he just was kind of dry about the notes. He said, "Oh, this mix sounds great, but when are you going to edit the drums?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "The drums are fine." Yeah. He's like, "No, they got to be gridded." I'm like, "Why?" Yeah. I'm like, "Why? This sounds fine. This is 260 BPM. You can't even tell when it's, I let it sway." And he's like, "No, that's just our sound." I'm like, "Okay." And then it fucking totally kind of train wrecked the whole thing because I didn't know I was being sent unedited drums. That's how tight Marco was.
Exactly.
That's how tight Marco was. Yeah. And it's not me even going to bat for him. It's like this guy can
just the facts.
It's just the facts.
Yeah, it's just the facts.
Yeah.
I didn't know he sent me unedited drums. And I knew that they weren't gridded, but it wasn't like this is unacceptable. I would have never mixed the record if I thought that the drums weren't tight enough. Yeah. So we had to go back and edit the drums, of course, and then it was fine. But we even gridded the vocals, which is something that was strange. Like when I recorded with Ian was like, "Yeah, we have to snap it because that's the way Lucas wants it," And at that point, if it's being snapped to the grid, there's no reason for me to be making decisions. I sent it to John Douglas. I said, "John,
just grid it. Fuck it.
Grid it because you're not paying me to make a decision anymore."
Yeah.
When I'm sitting there with you guys, or I'm sitting there with Undeath or Trivium or whatever, and they're like, "Is this good enough?" And I'm like, "It's more than good enough. It was the one, or whatever, or maybe, but if you're literally paying me to grid it, then there's no reason to even have a producer."
Totally. And I think that's something that people don't really realize. When you're planning on quantizing, gridding the whole thing, you don't even have to really pay attention to takes that much.
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
it's a take that's pretty good. Yeah. Whatever, it's going to be quantized anyway. Fuck it, move on to the next thing. Yeah. And I think it's a whole nother skill set to be like, okay, we're going to get this with the right feel, especially for drums. Yeah. It is it's really hard to get a drum take that is good enough to not grid. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a hard fucking thing to do.
Dude, absolutely, man. Or just like when I did this Undeath record, we mapped the songs, but then we would have a good idea of the tempos. And the band knew the tempos. They'd be like, "Oh, well, this song starts at 205." But, we'd get to a part where I'd be like, "This doesn't feel right anymore." Or I'd be like, "Guys, this needs to be slower," or whatever. And then there was parts of that record where we turned the click off completely. There's parts of that record that are kind of a fucking mess, but then we did try to put them to a click, and it was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Because the band literally played with Matt, the drummer, to map all the songs out. So we would map the song, and then we would go in and have Matt just, play to that guide track and just annihilate the drums, punch things in where we needed. And then we went back, and each guitar player played his part. So it's like a true representation of the feel of the band. Yeah. With us going back and making everything sound superhuman. Yeah. Because at that point, it wasn't really possible for me to just grid something. Right. Because it was like he rushed apart so much, but it needed to feel that way. Yeah.
And that's another thing with the gridding. You can't just grid one part.
Yeah.
It's either got to be everything's gridded.
Yep.
Or everything has got the feel and the right part.
Because once you grid it, you get addicted. It's like crack. You're like, fuck.
It's like the steroids thing.
Yeah, it is.
In sports and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's just it's this you're looking at this perfect version of yourself,
Right.
And
yep.
It's definitely cool. Don't get me wrong. It's just at this stage of my life,
Yeah.
That's just not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just don't want to hear it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this kind of happens with Guitar Pro as well. Like when stuff is written in Guitar Pro, people get so used to it sounding like fucking exactly perfect. So going in to record something that was written in Guitar Pro, you're never going to just want the feel out of it. You want the fucking Guitar Pro part.
Yeah.
It's like demoitis. You know, like when you get you hear it on the demo so many times and then you hear it on the record and you're like, oh, it's not right.
Yeah.
I feel like that same exact thing, Cheney, what you just said, that's a really good point. I think Guitar Pro has a huge amount to do with why tech bands sound the way they do.
I do too.
Because you're writing it in there and you're hearing it over and over again. And like when you hear it recorded, it sounds whack.
Yeah, it sounds like shit.
Yeah, it sounds stupid. It's like, this isn't good compared to like the perfect, the GP.
Yeah.
But it is good.
Yeah, I know, but it's
the way to be.
Yeah.
Like I urge people, it's like, man, go watch that dude Kevin play that Arcspire song.
Oh, it's
dude, it's amazing.
I'm like, motherfucker, this sounds like it sounded evil. It was like,
so
yo,
sick. Yeah. I actually, so he posted the whole song on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you're scrolling on Instagram. Like I was like, oh, you posted a clip, and I just sat there, watched the whole entire thing.
Yeah, we both watched it.
I watched the whole entire thing. I was like,
I watched most of it
he's
too.
the fucking sickest.
Dude, it's insane.
And there was a blast part where he was like rushing the hands, and I'm like, yeah, like because they were on top of the feet, and it's like, dude, but I would have never fixed that in the studio because it sounded badass. Like,
it sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's like that Fetus record that I mixed, like something like, here's another example, because this is the examples that I know. But they came to me after they had a bunch of kids test mix, and they're like, dude, like, can you, I agreed to do the mix. And I said, well, they said, oh, we had some kids test mix. They didn't tell me who, I'm not burying any bodies or anything. But like, they said we had like 5 or 6 kids test mix, and every single one of them replaced Trey's snare and like all this shit.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's there for you, and that was one of the easiest mixes of my life. With the exception of getting the guitar sound the way I wanted it. Like the drums, dude, I turned up the faders and added my kick sample that I knew Trey would like because it was something that sounded like he already used anyway.
Yeah.
But like the snare drum, it's his snare.
It's Fetus.
Yeah.
You have to just have it like that.
I'm just
You
like,
do.
boop. And I think I took out like a little bit of 300 hertz and, something else, and like maybe added a little bit of compression and a transient designer. And it was like, oh, there it is. It's done.
Yeah.
It took me like 30 seconds.
Totally.
And the same thing with his toms, like, and it's so crazy to me that somebody would just not listen to that and just kind of square peg that beautiful round hole of a snare drum that you can just plug right in. You just turn it up and it's done.
Yeah.
There's so much left on the table with these bands that they don't even, I wish that they had the balls to just be themselves, because active rock, it's one thing. I mean, all those guys are homogenized and there's only a handful of producers that are making all those records anyways and writing those songs. But tech bands are full of a bunch of badasses, and the deathcore bands too. But they're just like,
it's like these guys are,
dude, they're amazing.
These guys
musicians.
are insane.
Yeah.
They are like the best musicians. Like, just
and why are you
fucking play it.
afraid? Why are you afraid?
So I'm wondering, do you think it comes down to like listeners? Do listeners want to hear perfect things, and that's why
listeners don't know shit.
Yeah, I don't think
They don't know what the fuck they want.
Yeah, I don't think
and the only thing they know is what they first heard, and it's unfortunate that some of the first shit that they hear is some perfectly quantized shit. It's crazy, the elitism that I saw in those comments. I'm like, this is toxic and gross and dumb.
Yeah.
It's a call out game of this person sucks, that person sucks. None of these people suck. None of them suck at playing drums.
Yeah. Oh, I knew Lord Marco was a fake. I'll vote for Kamala or vote for Trump or whatever. Like it's like that dumb shit. Like why do we have tribes of people that want to be on a team with somebody that's putting somebody else down about whatever it is he was trying to make a point about?
Yeah. I feel it.
Yeah.
I think the main thing was that, it's if you say it's not fake when it's fake.
Yeah.
I guess that's a
but
problem.
what's the end game? So Marco doesn't deserve to play drums anymore?
Yeah, I know.
He should like have to shit his pants in front of 1,000 people or fucking,
Or also, why did we get to this point? Why do the 15-second clips on Instagram need to sound perfect?
Yeah,
Why do we need things to... Why do vocalists need to mime along to parts just so they sound like perfectly high and perfectly low?
Yeah.
I think that we should start embracing artistry and that bands should sound different. And that is why bands stick around, because they sound different. They have something new to offer. The members of the band are sick. The timbre, everything is different. You can tell them immediately when you hear them. Like the homogenization of metal, I think, is a bad thing, because it's taking away individualism and it's making it into a competition.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a competition of who's the best vocalist, who's the fastest guitar player, who's the fastest drummer.
Yeah, I agree.
It should be like, what are this person's strengths? What are they adding? And are they making sick music? I want to fucking listen to it.
Yeah.
That's what it should be about.
And I feel like that's what the early 2000s, 90s death metal was about. But the thing is, I don't know. I feel like in death metal, it's still pretty legit.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
I don't think it's especially with the uprise of the old school death metal bands, where a lot of bands that are starting to work with you and Sanguisa Sugabog and all that type of stuff. It's they are bringing that original sound,
Yeah, there's a rawness to those
and having
bands.
the raw thing and everything.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's who's knocking on my door most of the time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, I'm doing this Warbringer right now, and dude, there's no kick sample on the album. There's little parts where I had to sneak it in because it's some really fast kick parts. But I mean, the real kick drum is on every single hit of the record. There's not a single part where I replace the entire kick drum. And the fastest thing on the record is in the low 200s, which is fast, but it's that's old school fast. It's 90s fast. But when he plays those double kick parts, it's you're you feel like you're gonna fall off the train or fall off the horse or whatever it is. You're man, we're really pushing it here, and it just has such a different feel. And you hear the kick drums drop down when he's playing 16ths over 200. You're like, oh, I forgot about that sound, man. That, it doesn't sound like a robot going the whole time. It's the kick drums drop a little bit, and then there's a little bit more sub in the kick because it's not being hit as hard. And it's this whole different sound. You're like, whoa, totally. I forgot that existed.
Totally.
I'll listen to some records where it's there's supposed to be a dynamic shift in the drums, but it's just so quantized and oversampled that you can't even tell that it's gone from a super fast part to a really slow melodic thing. Yeah. It just all sounds super even.
Yep.
And it's just doing a disservice to the players, the people in the band.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I remember really having to get savvy with automation on stuff because we would put in these crazy kick samples and there'd be a dynamic part in a song, and I'm like, motherfucker, you can't fucking have a 127 kick drum velocity in this bridge where there's a clean guitar and a guy singing or whatever. It doesn't work. And it's people. It's funny to me how little people care. And I used to and still pull my hair out about these parts, or rim-shotted blast beats or rim-shotted drum fills, where I'm like, that's not even real. And there's no shame.
No, there's no shame.
It's
no shame.
It's ridiculous. It's I'm trying to even think of a good analogy, I don't even know, dude. Just somebody who just gives no fucks about something being so fake you don't even care. It's
okay. So I have one that I've been wanting to bring post on my Facebook. It's the Infant Annihilator. Have you ever heard that, man?
Yeah,
Okay, so they have parts that are literally the bass drum's a note. It's
it just
fast.
goes.
Yeah. And then the guy has playthroughs of it.
Oh god.
And they're 10 years old.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if it's slipped under the radar or not, but I remember seeing it and being like, oh my God. And then I'm like, all right, this guy is just going to be getting roasted in the comments, right? I go to the comments. It's this guy is the sickest drummer of all time, right? It's just comment after comment about how sick he is.
Yeah.
And now it's like I want to post it and be like, all right, how are we feeling about this video now?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, how are we doing here?
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is like the worst offense that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like most people now are going through like what I went through in 2005.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I actually remember being a kid and somebody telling me that Green Day, like bands, don't play the songs all the way through in the studio.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, fuck. Like I was super bummed about that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I feel like most people are going through what I went through then, but they like, so yeah, to us, we're just like, yeah, of course, it's all fucking fake. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
like,
why I came on here. Dude, when I was a kid, I used to think that music videos were a separate take. Like they were playing the song in the music video. I didn't realize it was the same recording.
I thought they were playing it on the radio.
Yeah.
Like they were in the radio office.
Yes.
But I am just wondering, like, because I do think that there's a place for this kind of music, like Infant Annihilator. All of these bands should exist, and people love their music. So, like, what's the answer for you guys in that stuff?
I mean,
like,
to me, it's like just make a real record. Should I like?
But why? What if they don't want to make a real record? Is the answer to like?
But they never have. So how would they know?
Yeah, well, I just mean like it serves a certain sound,
Right.
You know,
Right.
so like
it does. But they.
if you want it to sound like that on record, then what is the answer for you to do live? If no one, which I also want to say just before this, that Max with Zenith Passage is absolutely fucking killing all of their stuff
so
live.
them live is incredible.
insane.
10 on 10.
Because they can match what they put on record perfectly in real life.
Right.
Naveen and I saw a video of Max before we saw him play, and we were like, there's no fucking way he's
Yeah,
playing
I was
that.
like, dude, I told him this.
Yeah,
I was
we
like,
told him.
My fake meter was going off.
Your fake dar.
Yeah,
But-
my fake dar. And when they started playing, I was like, holy shit. This is insane.
He's amazing.
But I think it's more like what Mark's saying. It's like, just have it be that.
Yeah, I just think that it's more believable if you leave that thing in there, because in my opinion, the grid it takes the threat away for the band.
Yeah.
And it takes the threat away for the listener, and the listener stops listening because they're not threatened.
Yeah.
You know, your brain turns off, and you're not paying attention because you know that there's nothing to take in except perfection. And you know, when you have something where you don't know where it's going to go, your brain's always going to be like, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Oh, yeah. So the answer is basically to have that almost perfect drummer play live or play on record.
Yeah, and don't go so crazy with the sampling and the editing. I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, I would invite any one of those bands. It's like, come do a song with me, you know. I mean, maybe I'm talking out my ass. I might you know, like maybe I'll bite off more than I can chew. Come do a song with me for fucking free. And then, you know, I'm sure your fans will hate it because it sounds too real. But like, it's such a different experience.
I want to hear it.
I want to hear it too.
You know, it's such a different experience. And look, I mean, the fans are so elitist. They'll probably be like, "Oh, this drum mix is shit."
I don't think so. I don't think they're as elitist as. I think that they would be down for that.
You know why? Because a lot of those fans like us.
Yeah, fair enough.
Know? And I like.
A lot of those fans.
I think our mix is a good in between.
Sure,
I think it's better than what I can actually sound like live in terms of just like. You know, we're dialing in everything to sound what we think is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's not technically perfect, but it's like the perfect version of what we want to hear.
I guess that's something. If people are still hanging on to this conversation where we started with the why we think things are the way they are, you know, when you're relying on the grid, it's a very different kind of empty feeling of after a while, you know that it's perfect. You get shocked at first, but then you know in the back of your head it's perfect and there's no fuck up. Whereas like when we nail something, like when we're making an Entheos record or any other band that I'm working with where we're not relying on the grid, the feeling you get is so different than relying on the computer. Like, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that was the right vocal take for that chorus. You hear it and you're like, fuck, you know, Mark was right. That was the take. Or sometimes the artist is like, no, dude, that one was the one. And I'm like, and I hear it, and I'm like, fuck, that's the one, you know, or that's the drum take, that's the guitar take. Like, you know, so unequivocally that is the take in your soul when it's a human thing. You know what I mean? It's a very different feeling than just spending 2 weeks editing a record together.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of very unfulfilling to work that way. And it's fun to listen back and be like, oh, this is so crazy. Oh, listen to how silly this is.
Yeah.
But when you nail something, it's such a different reward system than fucking doing it on the computer, man.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know?
Well, I mean, maybe someone will take you up on that offer tomorrow.
Yeah. Come on.
He's going to have 10 people knocking at his door tomorrow to do a free recording.
No, I'd love to hear that. Are you kidding me? That would fucking sound sick.
But it's got to be a notable band with a perfect, you know, like.
Yeah. Like if Zenith Passage did it or fucking whatever.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to poach anybody either.
Yeah, I'm also not trying to talk shit. It's just like, it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, it's just my taste.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't think it's better. I don't think I'm better for what I want to hear. It's just what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Because I've been through in points of my life where I want to hear the insanity fake shit.
Yeah.
You know? But I never thought that I was listening to something that wasn't fake.
Yeah.
You know? So, but yeah, I guess it goes back to like when I was younger, I always preferred just like you said, that character, you hear the snare, you're like, okay, I know what band that is.
Yeah.
And and that's why a lot of people always comment to me like, oh, your snare, it's so like, you know, noticeable. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
You gotta have that original snare.
Yeah.
Or the drummer of Sanguisa Sugabak.
Yeah.
Like I can fucking, bands that he's in, other bands come up on my Spotify all the time. And I'll just be like, this is that drummer.
Yeah.
This is him.
Yeah.
And I'll look and I'll be like, yep, it's them.
Yeah.
Just because I know what his fucking snare sounds like.
Yeah.
And that's just so cool to me.
Yeah.
Isn't there's another fulfilling thing.
Exactly.
That you can get from it.
It's very fucking cool. Or you hear Brandon Ellis bend a note, you're like, oh, I know that fucking wiggle anywhere.
Totally.
You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Like that's the guy, you know? It's just like, or hearing Yngwie or Hendrix or whatever, you're like, up. And I just don't understand why people don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, Yngwie is a good example because it's like, that shit is not fucking perfect at all.
No, not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. And same with Tosin. You know, like I lived with Tosin. I got to see him play all the freaking time. And it's like I realized about him. It's like, oh, he's like got his own thing going. You know, he's not completely on the beat.
Yeah.
You know?
And look at his
perfect.
Success. Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, seriously, the guy is case in point for the perfect isn't everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like he like you talk to Tosin and he wants to learn, but he is super confident in what he does know. Like he might ask me about gear, but he's like, now he knows what he likes. He knows what he wants to hear, and he's fucking brilliant at it. Like that's what all these guys are good at, you know? Like they have their thing, and then other guys like Steve Vai or, you know, Metallica with seeing Gojira, they're like, you need to come on tour with us. We see that you are, you know, maybe not the best players in the world, but are the best at doing what you do, you know, and it's the whole kind of like camaraderie and people have an understanding of it's like this brotherhood of trust in yourself. You trust yourself enough to be yourself and not, you know, have the computer fix it, I guess. It's kind of like this thing. It's like this unspoken bond of like respect, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a different thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, fuck.
All right. Well,
How long have we been going for?
A little over an hour.
All right. Is there any questions? Or we could get into some other stuff.
People don't even care.
they don't even cur.
Yeah.
One guy, Jordy, asked, is improv more real than written and rehearsed material?
More real? I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like improv can be can put people in like a state of anxiety.
Yeah.
And they might not be putting out their like best. You kind of have to be practiced in improv, I think.
Yeah, you have to be somebody like Emil Wursler or or Ryan Knight is incredibly versed at that stuff. But those guys, they look at music so differently. Improv artists,
Yeah.
as opposed to, you know, people that are solely rehearsed writers or people that want to put out something that is rehearsed. Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different way to approach the instrument.
I think it could be compared to like improv acting. Improv actors aren't better than like Tom Cruise or whatever, but they've just practiced a different skill set where they can react to things in the moment. Yeah. And improv musicians can react in the moment. And some musicians need like time to make fucking solos. They need 3 weeks and to make riffs and solos. That doesn't make one of them better. I think it just means that they've practiced like different things.
If the solo was super sick though, and there was like, the guy improv that, you'd be like, damn.
Yeah.
People will talk about it for sure. They'd be like, he wrote that in 2 minutes, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I leave room in the drumming for improv, like I quote unquote. It's like most everything I do is just like I don't write the fills out. Or whatever. So, but I guess drumming and guitar playing are quite different.
Yes.
In that respect.
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah, I guess so. It's there's less ways. I guess it's easier to get away with stuff on drums. I guess. That's
you can just be like, oh, does that sound cool? All right, let's use it.
Yeah.
And that was like, I remember recording the Whitechapel with you. That was the first time we worked together. Like, I was trying all kinds of stuff, and you'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool. What if you just like played it like a quarter note on the...
yeah.
And I was like, huh, okay, he's right. It's that sound, like every time you did that, I was like, okay, that actually does sound kind of better.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I feel like we rolled that. I don't know that we rolled that over as much into our album that we did together because Naveen did not track drums with you. But the EP that we just did, and End to Everything, that totally rolled over because you were there to be like, I don't know if we should do like go all out. I remember there was like Naveen talks about this. There was something that happened where Naveen and Evan were like trying to do the most musical shit on the EP for like a half an hour.
Yeah, and you just turned around in your chair and you're like, guys, I am just not feeling this, man.
I don't even remember what it was.
You're like, guys, I'm really not feeling this. Can you just play the riff how it goes? And we were just like, yeah, totally. Got it. That's what's up.
Was it something you were having me edit or something?
It was like Evan was trying to figure out this like really crazy like jazzy thing over a part. Yeah. And it was just a part that just needed to be ripped like the regular
straightforward.
Riff. Yeah. And it was hilarious.
I do remember you wanting to change a kick drum pattern on a breakdown or something, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
It became. It was, What,
I remember that. I wanted to change a breakdown and like add something in there.
Yeah.
And you were just like, no, dude, it sounds fine the way it is. Yeah.
Well, because I feel like musicians can get like ahead of themselves. People want to show off. Yeah. We all want to show off. We want to be like, I'm like the sickest. I can do the most variations. And it is good sometimes to have someone there to be like, dude, we just need to serve the song right now.
Yeah.
This isn't about you showing off what you can do.
I do it with Sonics. I mean, I'll like go down the rabbit hole for like a couple days or a week on a guitar sound and then go back to the first thing I fucking had. I'm like, God damn it. I just wasted all this time. I should have just trusted my gut.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
I remember at the end of it, we were like, well, next time, let's just go with that first one. And just not do the rest of this shit.
Okay. So Jordy Exists says, if realness is a desired quality in recording, wouldn't part of the recording process include writing on the fly to even more capture the moment?
I mean, I think that hopefully we covered a lot of us talking about finding that perfect blend between the editing and the realness. And to be honest with you, I mean, a lot of musicians, especially in metal, they don't speak the language like that, man. They're just not that type of musician. Mm-hmm. You're not Herbie Hancock or Bill Evans or fucking Amel or whoever. Like, you're not that
on the spot.
You're not that person. Yeah. You're about an aesthetic, and I mean, and that's why we're all here with metal. It's not like, you grew up listening to Bob Dylan and you decided that you wanted to just play metal because that was how you wanted to express yourself. It's like you're so attracted to the aggression, the aesthetic and everything about it that's I don't know. I'm getting down a rabbit hole here, but
no, I feel you. But I do think that no matter what, some stuff is just going to happen while you're recording.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like,
If you
always-
let yourself track that way.
Yeah.
there is going to be a point where, like, with the EP, there's tons of stuff where we're just like, hey, let's try this real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And there is brilliant moments where you go, fuck, that worked, or you spend a day and you're like, that didn't work at all. We just blew it, but whatever. You know?
Totally.
Yeah, that
Back to square one.
That happens a lot.
Totally.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's how it goes. All right. Well, I think that was a great podcast,
Yeah,
you
that
guys.
was awesome,
We're going to
dude.
wrap it up there.
That was-
Thanks
Yeah.
for...
The old guys yelling at the clouds.
Yeah. Hopefully
mean-
we made sense and like, you know, I don't know, man. It's all fake, guys. Stop fucking picking on bullshit. It's all
Yeah,
fake. Like
it
all
is.
of it's fake.
And
Yeah.
all of these people can play their instruments.
Yes.
Let's just...
I know.
Yes.
They
That's
can
the
play.
thing that's
Yeah.
ironic. All these guys they rip.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fucking
So
rip.
what if they fixed a kick part or
Yeah.
whatever? Like, whatever.
Dude, I haven't fired a drummer from a record in like 17 years.
Damn, who was it?
I don't want But there was one band, 3 records in a row, 3 different drummers. I fired them all.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Wasn't
man.
me, that's for sure.
Well, no one sucked that bad in 17 years, so let's keep that going.
Well, it's been quite a while. Yeah, it's been like at least actually maybe it's like 15 years. But you know, like drummers are great now, and I'm much better at faking it.
Yeah, that's true.
I fake it. I'm not saying I don't fake it.
Yeah.
But
It's
you-
the
Yeah,
it's the yin
I
yang.
think that's the point that I'm trying to drive home is it's like it's like plastic surgery.
yeah,
Good plastic surgery,
you never know.
you don't know that they had
Yeah,
plastic surgery.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But hey, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well,
KoperCrabb out.
I think we're going to probably have a follow-up episode on this. Maybe we'll get some other guys on here. I
Yeah,
want to
dude.
do like
Yeah.
I want to do like a panel. People fucking arguing about it and shit. That'd be sick.
I would love to.
Wouldn't that be sick?
I'd love to argue and put some real opinions on it.
That's
and
what we need
get
to do.
Real
Oh
A
pissed.
debate, dude. That's what I want.
I will rip some souls out.
Real versus enhanced.
Yeah.
I think there's room for everyone, man.
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
there's
Yeah,
room
same,
for it all.
Same.
All right, you guys.
All right, much love. Have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next Thursday because we will not be here on Tuesday.
Right. Okay. We'll see you next week for the happy hour.
That's right.
All
Have
right.
a good night. Love y'all.
Peace.